Okay. We left off last week talking about the 17th Lois HaSeh. Mitzvah HaShva'esrei, we spoke about Shehizir, that it's dafka on the Musas, according to the Rambam. Me'ahov HaMesis u'lahazim l'dvorov. We pointed out there are two pshatim over here. Ahov HaMesis is the Pirush Mekubal, and that's a Sifri. Lahazim l'dvorov, to Mekabel l'dvorov, that's Unkelis, and that's Pshuta Shomikra. And we pointed out the Ram Mishnah Torah has both. He in Perik Hey, Halacha Daled and Hey, we pointed out that he has both. We also pointed out that the Ram is very clear. There's no stira. You can have both Pshuta Shomikra and the Pirush Mekubal. And we said that even though the Ramban Chumash seems to say that there is a stira in the Shoshim, in Shorish Beis, he's very clear that both Pshatim are emes. Aval hakosu yichlo hakol kein hefesh kedivrei chasvei das haloshen v'lo kedas hatzdukim ki sefer teres Hashem tmimo ein bo is yeseh v'choser kulam b'chochmo nichtavo v'cheinu inyan b'chol mokum hadidresh lehem be'inyan Moshe Molitza yaminu ki shnehem emes pnivi v'chitzan. The Pshuta Shemikra and the Pirish are both true. It's just the Chumash who is interested in Derech HaPshat, so he's machriya like a Derech HaPshat because the Psukim seem to go that way, and not like Derech HaBasein. But both are true. It's a very strange tshuva from Rabbi Yeshua Nogid on this mitzvah. He seems to ask the question, how do you get out from Tever Lahov? And he says, Tiritz, tshuva, Tever, Tia Tohav, Bechiluf Osias. If you turn the bays and the hay around, you get from Tovet to Tohav. The Fisher Rabim She'ele B'mikro Mishum Kach Oma She'lahav Es Amesis. A period is very odd, but I would say the purpose over here is, since the Ram says that a Pirush Mekubal has to have a smach in the claw, so he learns that Chiluf Osya is enough of a smach to interpret the Pirush Mekubal. I think that's what he's saying, otherwise I don't understand. Now, the more important issue over here, in the minyan of mitzvah, the Bahag, he has he's moin of the mitzvah of mesis b'chlal and niskolim. Mesis is the 15th of the niskolim. But he is not moine in minyan mitzvahs le'sever in minyan alav, and also you don't find him Avsadi going to minyan mitzvahs. However, he probably also counts mesis, but we don't know one way or the other because he counts each of the chiyui misas deshama, chiyui misas bezdin as separate mitzvahs, but we don't have it because the whole list of misas bezdin is left out of the Ksav Yad. But Mistaba is the Mesis B'chlal. And Mistabi is also L'cheira that the Bahag and Absadi go into the same, that they count they count Maces, the Chiyumis of Maces, and however, they don't count Sefer. So the question is, why? So the simple answer is that the Ram says in the 8th Shurish that we only count Isurim, not a negative. You can't count the mitzvah. He did not walk up the steps. That's a negation. Don't run is a ashara. But you say he didn't run is a negation. And we only count a tzivui of not doing something, not a shalila. And the Minchas Chinuch basically asks this question in general. He doesn't say this pshat in the Bahag, but l'cheira, you could assume that's so. Minchas Chinuch in Mitzvah Tov Nun Zayin, Ois Aleph, Shemenanu Shol Chabe V'al Zeh Nema Leisayv. Zeh Mavur Barambam Perek Hey Mihilchos Akum Me'asifri Mavur B'Sifri V'Rashi Al HaTeira Mevil Lefish Nevaftu Achamocha. See here, now you begin to understand why it's a shalila. Because the Sifri's lashon is, which the Ram himself will quote, Michlal Shnema V'After Lecha Kamoicha Yochol Ato Oiv Lezeh. So it's a shalila that the din of V'After, which applies to every Jew, does not apply to a Maces. It doesn't apply. So then it's a shalila. And that is what he says. Yochol af zeh tamaloi b'lei sefer. V'chein b'mitzshach hazeh mavur lefi shenema v'chulei. V'kosheli ayin b'sefer Mitzvas l'Rabbeinu, I guess Rambam, b'sherish ches. וברמב"ן שום שכוסבו, שום תנאי השלילוס, עם צריכה תורה לשלו דובו, כמבוא גבי וכינס אישתוי. רבי ישוע סויבר רשוס, לפי שנאמר לו סיסנה. Excuse me, sorry, sir. Dovo, excuse me, sorry. Lishlo dovo kimavur gabe v'kines ishtoi. Rabbi Yeshua server rishus. V'kines ishtoi is a het lefish nemo loy sist. V'chule ad kan kos vatera kan v'sholo zeh. So it should have been, the din should have applied, and v'sholo, and it doesn't apply. Therefore, it's only rishus. It's not a mitzvah. V'chein yibum. Ein shom, Rabbi Akiva loy made hashlius in posuk acher. On a posuk zeh mitzvah. V'chein lo yitame. According to one, it's a rishus because it's kilu hete. Ein certainly daf gimel at. So therefore, you should ask, "Koch kan menole lechazal zeh havilav v'nechshe b'chlal lavim." This lav leiseve, maybe it's not a lav. Tilmu hulak shlilus v'rishus lefisha kosmater v'hafta kosmater kan zeh shu rasha ain't soch lav leiseve. V'chein b'mitzshach hazeh diozim tazim tilmu sholak kosmadov hazeh v'kan. Avo b'lav eino oiver. There's no lav. Ayin barichas shom b'divrei Rambam. So, l'cheira, it's a very cogent question. How do you pull out an ashara over here? And the interesting question is, both the Rambam and the Ramban of the opinion, we don't count Shlilus. So if we don't count Shlilus, and the Lashon of the Sifri is Masham is Shlilus, because the din of Yaftagach Kamoicha and Kamash Malon, that it doesn't apply here. That's Shlilus. So I have a following suggestion. It could be that I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's only what I would suggest. See, you have to keep in mind that there is a Pshuta Shel Mikra and a Pirush Makubal. Of course, it says, Shehizir me'ahov hamesis, or lahazin l'dvorov. So lahazin l'dvorov, that he shouldn't, that le'seva, he should be makabel, the dvorim of the mesis, that's certainly an asshole. So maybe what they're assuming is that if you have a clear there's clarity in the Pshuta Shel Mikra that there's an ashara, even though the Pirush Makubal could go either way, it could be a Shlila or an ashara, we don't assume that the Pshuta Shel Mikra and the Pirush Makubal are says each other. So in Mela, we have an ashara. This would have been okay. The only problem is, if this is the reason why it's ashara, you would expect the Rambam to quote the Pshuta Shel Mikra in every single. See, there's a whole list of lavim over here. There's a lav of Sefer. There's a lav of Sishmeilov. There's a lav of Leisachus Ein Cholov, and there's a lav of Leisachmo, and there's a lav of Leisachase. And each one of them could have been a Shlila. But the Rambam only quotes, and the truth is, you look through the Ramban, there's a Pshuta Shel Mikra in every single one. But the Rambam only quotes the Pshuta Shel Mikra only by Mesis, only by Leiseva, not by the rest. And if the reason why we interpret that it's a ashara, not a shlila, is because of Pshuta Shel Mikra, so then it's partially equal chasam and Sefer. That's a problem. That I'm confused about. The Ram here, after he quotes the Sifri, he doesn't say anything about Malchus. In the Sefer, and in the Minyan Aloikin, in Hilchos Sanhedrin, in Perek Yud Tes Halacha Daled, he doesn't bring Malchus by the Sefer. So it's an odd thing, because I could imagine that you have ahava through a act, and that's mechayev malchus. The same way you find the Ram Shita is the kleine chometz lePesach, even though if you do a ma'aser, you chayev malchus. So if you do a ma'aser that demonstrates ahava, I could imagine also there's malchus. And there's nothing in the Rambam about this to allude that there might be malchus here. So I have a suggestion. Maybe I missed the boat, but maybe it's right. That if the mitzvah over here is an issue of midas, that's midas that we saw in the Rambam in Shorish test. The after is midas. That's what he's talking about. It could be if the chefset of the mitzvah is midas, a pula is irrelevant. If the chefset of the isa is to have chometz, so if you do it through a ma'aser, that's a kuvaseh, and that's a yesh boy ma'aser. But if the chefset of the lav is a boy ma'aser, the pula would be irrelevant. If that's correct, then there's no issue and there's no malchus for Sefer because it's an chefsa, a lav shein boy ma'aser because it's midas. That is this first mitzvah, the 17th lav. Now the 18th. Mitzvah shmone esrei, he, she, his here, hamusas again. Here also, the lav is on the musas, and it's the poshit. It's the because the Torah, it's in the second person, and the Torah is talking to the musas, so the lav's on him. Minchas Chinuch also points it out in Mitzvah Tofnun Ches, Ois Aleph, V'ayin Shem Oid Shekosev Dine B'Shara Veis Im Roye Chaveru Mu B'Sochem Daf Yud Kuf Yud Gimel the Mutter Oy Mitzvahs Neis. Astama Rosha, there's a heter. Or Mitzvahs Neis. V'nu Medive Kabbalah Ach Kan Gabi Mesis Oiva B'Lav. Someone who doesn't hate him violates a lav. Imeno Soina. V'gam Shom Mitzvah Af B'Soine Lefuke V'Litayin. V'kan Adarab Oiva B'Lav. A person who is pre-kutine violates a lav. Ach Efsha Dieno Oiva B'Lav Rak Hamusis. Kmo dichsi b'kol le'sever ulemus azikol. Avukuli alma chutz me'amusis af di ke'edim umitzak ho yiselis neis kemu psochim idi ke'edim v'chulei hainu midive kabbalah. Aval alav inim oivim v'chein prikutina efshe de mitzuva kuli alma lifot glitoy. The af im noima dehu min amoridin al kolponim inim oivim b'lav azeh Dehu efsher rak lemusis. V'tzoachim v'lo yanti shom heitev b'kom reiloch. The very thing goes back and forth to try to prove that the lav is on the musis and doesn't quote the doesn't quote the Ram that says it in Mufurish, Beseda. So shehizi amusis me'azoiv lisnoi amesis. Me'azoiv b'b'lahokel lisnoi b'netirot. It could be that. Or could be be'evo, b'sino. So, Lashon Ram is very interesting. The Isa is azivas hasino, me'aziv lisnoi, me'aziv linkoim, me'aziv as Eva, Mulhokil be'Eva. In Minakotze also, Sholazev Hasino Lamesis, Shenemo Lesishma Elov. Potea Mitzvas, Sholazev Sinose. And this goes like Piusha Unklis on Oziv Tazev. Because if you go here, let's read it. Avachayv Lisnois Behechel, Kushloisano, Oiva Mitzvah. Vu'amo yis'ale l'sishma elov, u'boa perish michlal shenemo ozev ta'azev imo yochol ato ozev lezeh, ta'amoloi m'sishma elov. The ozev ta'azev means azivas hasino. So by acherim, it should be ozev ta'azev, you should be ozev the sinner, and by the maces, you should not be ozev the sinner. So that's the words are saying. And this is Targumukras. Mishpach tishbok ma dibalibo chalohi. Oh, leave alone, let go of ma sheyesh balibo chalohi, the sin that you have for him. That's by Ozav Tazer. But by the maces, you are chayiv to maintain this sinner. And here's a very interesting thing. So I'm not sure, you have to check out in other lavim. Here, what you basically have is a loisase, which requires you to be kumvase. And if not, you violate the lav. Because the lav is azivas asina. Avochayiv lisnoi oisai behechach. You don't have a choice. Ukeshelo yisnehu, or kappa v'chol zman. Shelo yisnehu, whatever. Over al mitzvas loisase. Hu amo yisale v'leisishma elov. Hu bo aperish michlal shenema azev tazev imoy yochol ato izev lezeh tamaloima leisishma elov. So here, as I pointed out before, we have the problem that we don't understand why it's a lav, maybe it's a shlila, and especially the Ram doesn't quote that there's a pshut l'shon mikra over here. But it's clear in the Rambam and Mishnah Torah that there is a pshut l'shon mikra. Because he says in Perik Hey, Halacha Dalet in Hey, v'yosel lemusis lao v'samesis shneim aloi seibaloi, aval im heisis la'avoid zora, la'avoid ish acher, or l'sham b'nei avoid zora, in kibu b'menu, v'oma hein neilech v'na'avoid, af al pi shadayin le'ovad, shneim niskolim, hamesis v'amusis, Shenema leisebeloi v'leisishma elov, or im shoma v'ovachai. So it's both the seve and Shama. And if he decides, he says, Hein, so then he's Chayiv Misa. The Ramban also on Chumash in Dvorim Gimel Yud Gimel Tes, the Ramas Shmeilov Shetoy Daloi Loi Makain Ese Elich VeAvoid Avoid the Zara Shamalto Uchayim Misa Bohida Osai. And the Elich VeAvoid is Ki'ilu that he said the Kabbalah Elohus. V'chein Tirgum Unklis V'loi Sekabel Minei. So here, let's just start slowly, okay? I'm amazed by this because basically what happens in this lav is that the assuming that Ozev Tazev means Azivas Hasina. And by the Masis, the Musis is also Lazar V'Sasim. So one would have expected in the mitzvah Prikutina, the lav should have been a lav Vazivus Asina, and which is also, and how does it express itself through Prikutina? This whole discussion as Vazivus Asina, you don't find in Minyan HaMitzvos, and you don't find in Mishnah Torah. And the opposite, we interpret that Ozev Tazev is the mitzvah of Prikutina, or Prikutina, okay, right? So the discussion over here in this mitzvah, as the Ram says in the minyan over there, that the lav is a lav, the assay of Ozev Tazev is Prikutina. Here, he should have said, not me'azev v'sasina amasis, but it means that, and therefore you enjoin for Prikutina. And the whole discussion in the mitzvah say of Ozev Tazev reflects on Prikutina. And when it comes to the lav, the whole discussion is Azivas Hasina and nothing to do with Prikutina, which is very odd to say the least. The mitzvah say reish beis hish livonu loherid hamasa krika me'al behem sheshiago b'masao b'derech v'omer yis'ala l'sir ki sira chamo sonacho v'chulei azev tazev imoy. So that's krika, and there's no discussion about sinah. The discussion, he doesn't talk about a sinah, not just the Pasuk mentions it. But it's a discussion about prika. V'lashem mechilta ozev tazev prika. V'shom amroi ozev tazev netzil l'meidin. Shu'ei v'asei v'aloisaseh. So it's very odd that there's no mention when you look at the Rambam and Gufa, the Rambam says the mitzvah over here is not to be like the Ozev Tazev. And that's the Sefer saying. Michlal Shnei Mozim Tazim Imoy Yochla Toiv Lezeh Tamaloim L'Sishmelo. And here it's Azov Asina. And when it comes to the Mitzvos of Tazov, he talks about Prika. And also in Mishnah Torah, he's talking about Prika. No discussion about Sinah. However, in Shmona Prakim, he ties up the Mitzvah Prikutina with Sinah. Ram Shmona Prakim says that the mitzvah of Prikutina is lahashkit milas hakas v'aroges, to quiet your anger. It's in Perek Dal Shmona Prakim. Ubezeis habechina bochan loeva mitzvahs. No, ubezeis habechina bachein loeva mitzvahs. You can find this, use this litmus test in most mitzvahs. V'timsena kulon magilois keichas hanefesh. What the mitzvahs do are basically the world, the people who are shoymim mitzvahs are in the laboratory of using mitzvahs to help build keichas hanefesh. K'moi shenesu hanekomo v'geulas hadam b'yom leisikom leisito azev tazev hokim tokim k'dei sheyachloish azev tazev hokim tokim k'dei sheyach yicholesh koyach hakino v'akas. That's kino v'akas in leisikom leisito. Or no, the koyach hakino is in leisiko leisito. Azev tazev and hokim tokim is kas or kas v'reges, and depends upon which translation you have. So he ties up azev tazev and hokim tokim to kas and reges, which is like what he's doing over here. There is somewhat of a remez to this approach in the Rambam in Mishnah Torah, because the Rambam in which Hilchos Shmiras HaNefesh in Perek Yud Gimel, Halacha Yud Gimel, Pogei b'shnayim echod loivetz v'chulei v'chulei. Avol, then he says like this: Pama devorim shehoyu shneim sonim oy oyhavim. Avol im hoye echod sonei v'echod oyev mitzvah litoin im hasonei tchila ve'lochuf es yitzchak hora. What's Yaakov Yitzhara? Or the chiluk for the mitzvah is the kfiyah of the Yetzer Hara of sinner, because in this case you shouldn't express the sinner. You should be oizev the sinner and be perek b'toyed. And that Kedesh Yitzra is a chelik. Kedesh Yaakov is Yitzra is a chelik of mitzvah prikutina, and it's not a separate inyan. So it's very confusing. But over here, the lav is azivas hasin. Now, let's go back to before. We pointed out, I think we pointed out that the Rambam in Hilchos with the Zohar Perek Halacha Dalet, that in Leisishma Elov there is the Pshuto Shel Mikra with Leiseva Leisishma Me'elech Va'avoid, means Kabbalah's Dvorim Avodah Zarah. And there also is the Pirush Makubal of Azivas HaSinah. So then I could have imagined that l'cheira in Pshuto Shel Mikra, these lavim of leisishma, leisev leisishma of lachnik lashois Mrs. Bezdin, because he says, Ram says that if he's to over v'ova or in shoma v'ova chayiv. So the question is, if Pshuto Shel Mikra, it's a lav shni vasos Mrs. Bezdin, maybe even if you do the pre-Kutina, which is the Maisa, maybe you shouldn't be Chayiv Malkus, because since the lav has two pshotim and there's no stira, so since the Pshuto Shel Mikra is a lav shni vasos Mrs. Bezdin, maybe the other chelik of the lav, the Pirush Makubal, is also no malchus. However, there could be another approach, because basically, according to the Pirush Makubal, the Pirush Makubal, there's no mention over here about pre-Kutina. Maybe if you do pre-Kutina or you don't do it, that's the only expression. But the chitz of the Easter is an Easter of Midas. Sinner, Roiges, Kas, whichever way you like it. So it could be, even if you do a Maisa, it's no nafkamina. That's another reason why you wouldn't have Malchus. And the Ram doesn't have this in Perek Yutes of Hilchos and Hedgin al Chadalit. The Minchas Chinuch says that it's a lav shnik lasois Mrs. Bezdin. L'choi is right in, at least in Ova, Ho'ova, the Ova, V'shoma. The question is, does it apply to the other case or not? And B'chal, the question is, do you need it? Minchas Chinuch says, "Ties sinas hamesis kavua shel nokel betiras in the koma v'alzeh ne'emar leisishma v'gam kain ein boy malchus ein shom afti oizeloi u'poirek v'toyein the havi maaser," which you can question, as I was mentioning before. Mikomo kom havali lavshit lasos Mrs. Bezdin ein shom barikus, which you can question this whole thing. Next. HaMitzvah ה-19. He, she, his here. המוסת, again musas, להציל es המסית, to save him. כשיר עשה בעניין המסה והצורך. Or Kapach says, where you see him in the matzav or the situation of not misa v'tzora, Kapach says, shall abdon v'kiloy, and he's near death. It's a situation that comes before us. So it's a mania of Hatzolah. Warum Yisale l'sochis ein cha'olo ubo aperish b'chlal shenema lo'isamon adam lo'echo. In general, you see a person who's in a situation where he needs Hatzolah. Yochol ato oimed al dovo shel zeh. Tam b'loim lo'isochos ein olo. Here, according to the Rambam in Hilchos L'Tzeich U'Shmiras HaNefesh, there's a question which one could ask over here, because basically the lav of Loi Sishma Elov is also an inyan of Hatzolah. Because the Ram says in Perek Yud Gimel Ochi Yudalit, Asoine imotzu nivhal b'masa'o mitzvah lifloik v'litoin imoy v'lo yanichenu noitelomus shema yishtahe b'shvil mamoinoi. The person will get nervous and stay around from his money because of his money, not to lose it, and that the behemoth is under masa, whatever it is. V'yovolei sakonu. V'ateri hikpida al nefoshes Yisrael bein Rishoyim bein tzadikim mi'achas shehem nilvim el Hashem u'maminim b'ikra das shenemo emo aleim chayoni num Hashem Elokim im echpoitz b'mois halosho ki im b'shuv gosha b'dalko v'choyo. So l'chayre is Krika Uti'ina is not a portion of Gemilas Chesed, but it's Shmiras HaNefesh, Meshchas Sakona, Mishum Sheyishal Mamoinai. And the Radvaz also says this, Ein Cheli Bey, Simetov Shin, Chof Ches, Avon Godohu, Imenichu Bo, Maso, V'holachloi, V'shem Yovoli De Misa, Ki Mitam Zeh, Kol Harav, Shtei Mitzvas Elu, B'chlal Hilchos L'Tzeich U'Shmiras HaNefesh. Then you sakon. So, if this is correct, one could ask, why are the two mitzvahs in Mina mitzvahs? Because both this mitzvah and the mitzvah before are an inyan of Hatzolah. So, simply, the question l'chayra is only Mishnah Torah, because over here, and not only Mishnah, you see, even in Mishnah Torah, the Rambam only says it by the mitzvah of Ozlev Tazev. But there's no discussion whatsoever in the lav over here. He doesn't say anything. It's Azivas Hasina. Ulefish never besoine Ozev Tazev Limoy yochel atoil lezeh tamuloim ovle sishma elov. So it doesn't say what it is. Maybe it's the same, I don't know. Because here in Sefer HaMitzvos, it's very clear that it's Azivas Asina. I'm not sure. On the other hand, he's very clear also put them at Sholaziv Sinosai. So we don't know. So the Chayra, that's another reason per se to make it two separate mitzvahs. Secondly, you have to ask yourself, basically, it's two separate things. One's an Indian of Sakana, and one's an Indian of Shmiras HaNefesh. Maybe that should be itself, should be two separate Inyanim. But third of all, since in Pshuto Shel Mikra, they're two separate Isu and B'chlal, the Leisishma Elov is of Ova V'Shoma is a question of Kabbalah Elohus, Neilech V'Navoid, whereas the Leisochos Eincha is probably something different B'chlal. And that you see in Ramban Alatera, the Ramban says in Dvorim Yud Gimel Tes, they were masku leisochus ein cholov lerachim olov shlo yomus. You shouldn't have achmonis. So you could imagine something like this, and even according to the Pirush Makubo, it should be in echad. But since according to the Pshuta Shomikra, it's two separate inyanim, it's also two lavs. You have a few options over here. The whole kash again is only according to Mishnah Torah, that in the Shmiras HaNefesh. And the question is, does it reflect itself? And it's not even clear to reflect itself in Mishnah Torah, because he says the lav over here is a lav of Azivas Asina. So it's not clear at all that there's one Indian. And if you assume, we have a few various pshatim to try to interpret this. Okay. See, here is very interesting why there shouldn't be Malchus. Because im Ova v'hitzil is the chalav sheish boy ma'isa. And Ram is very clear in Perek Yud Tes of Hilchos Sanhedrin Halacha Daled. He doesn't have it all. This in the Minyan Aloikim. So maybe here again you have the same thing, that since in Pshuta Shomikra Sholorachim, it's an inyan of Midas, so since the lav is mufka in the Pshuta Shomikra for Malchus, maybe the whole lav is mufka for Malchus, which you have to think about and see if it's true. But certainly. Or maybe that's good for the vault. Even further, because loisachos eincho, there's no stira. The sochos eincho, you shouldn't have achmonis to be matzil, but the etzim isa is an isa midas, and the pu'ula is only expression of not having that midah of sinner or the midah of av. So maybe since the etzim isa, the isa midas, whether you do pu'ula or not is irrelevant. Here, I must say I'm a little bit confused. I'll tell you over a Minchas Chinuch, and I'll just tell you my problems with it. Minchas Chinuch in Tov Nun Tes, Shenivna Musis Shel Lahatzil Amesis Kishiyeh B'Sakona V'Leisachos Eincho V'Ayin B'Mishas Hachomim Shechokar Imova V'Tzilo B'Maisim Loikin V'Koslim Hoye Edim Shehisis Im Kain Bakatolahu. So since he's Bakatolahu, Yocholoima Shetzil Kedei Lahavi LeBezdin Ladunoi Umitzel Dun LeBezdin Al Pi Mishpatos Heino Akdosh. And I am Isa that a person could say that, you know, the Torah says I shouldn't save him, but I saved him to bring it to Bezdin. So this Minchas Chinuch b'Shem Mishchom is mamash apel. The assumption is, first of all, this Malchus, which is not clear at all. Okay. Second of all, okay, that's the reason they compel. How can he say, make such a cheshbon that I want to save him in order to bring him to Bezdin? Even if you say there's a say to bring him to Bezdin, but we find that I say the chalosis has to be idna, and when you bring him to Bezdin, when you be matzalim, in order to bring him to Bezdin, that's considered bidna. Because the key of the assay is only a havola Bezdin. So it's mamash apela. And certainly according to the Rambam, that we don't find such an assay to bring to Bezdin, even though the Gemara Chulin is mashma like that, and the Ramban works like that. Kufla Metesa with Ali El de Legoma Dine Uboy Lasuye Lebeidina Bikur Beabata Rom Bikilbecho. The Ramban brings it in Shirish Yudalit, and he proves that Beabata Rom Bikilbecho the HaMitzvos. The Ram's mashma that the Dalamis Bezdin are separate mitzvahs, and the mitzvah on Bezdin, not an individual. So there's no thing that I want to save to bring it to Mrs. Bezdin. I don't know if such a thing, according to the Rambam. A mitzvah ho'esrim. She is here a musas shelamet zchus lemesis. V'afil yodei lo zchus. V'einoi afil yodei lo zchus. Einoi muter laskiroi. V'lo yelamet olav zchus. V'omo yis'ale loisachmo, uboa perish loisachmo loisalamed olav zchus. So this is a lav on the musas, as the Ram says. The Ramban and Chumash also like that. Loisachmo ala kurva haniskeres sheish lo imoch. So loisachmo is referring. There's a ki sischo avicha berimecha, the imecha berimecha. It's eish chekecha. It's all about kurva. It's all about the relationship of the musas to the mesas. And the Torah says you shouldn't be misyachas to it, but the lav is on the musas. Kasheyachmol ish al benoi ho'eved oisai. So the interesting thing is here is that both the Ram and the Ramban of the opinion that the lav is on the musas. However, the Rambam in Shurish Hay seems to say that the lav is on Bezdin. Hine lo rou la se tam bulvad ki divarav avum liya vashol the Bezdin. V'chein lo isachmo v'lo ischasol of the mesis. Lo isachmo v'lo ischasol of the mesis is meniya vashol the Bezdin. It's also about our Torah. The mishpatim are oinchi bezdin. V'chol ashol is heim al bezdin. Shalom noya lanu shamesis. Ramban in dvorim zayin yid beis v'hiske es a mishpatim ha'elu lahazim oid mishpatim. V'hiske v'chol I'm skipping kol eile b'mesis lo yisayva lo yisishmei lo yisochos eincho lo yisachol yischase v'yazel lo yisishmei lo b'minei ha'to'osav lo yisochos and he's going on Bezdin. So it's doch a stira. But before that, where does the Ramban get Bezdin? So I thought that if you look at the Pshuta Shal Mikra, Leisoiva loy, Leisishma elov, Leisochos eincho, Leisachmo, Leischasa elov, Ki horog talgenu, Yotchatia above Rishona. What's Ki horog talgenu? That l'chayr is going on Bezdin. The Yotcha Tia Rishona is going on the musas. Therefore, it's in the second person. And the ashol is also going to musas. But the fiapshat, the selek suvim, there's also discussion hog tagenu. So maybe the Ramban learns it also goes on Bezdin. There's no stira. What Mitzvah Hashem we have to pick up, because the Gemara in Sanhedrin is like the Ramban. Vein turn in the mesis, Chof Tesam and Aleph, my shno mesis, Amav Chamo, Bachanina, Mi Pirket Rabchia Barab, Abo, Shmile, Shani Mes, Tachmon Omale, Sachmo, Bles Chasre, Olo. And that's ain't turn in the mesis, L'chayr is Bezdin. And the Ram quotes it in Hilchos Sanhedrin, Perik Ayurav Alachates, Mes ain't Din of Kishad, Din the Forshes, Nimo Edim, Chule, Bim Yotze, Mi Bezdin. Zakai v'chulei v'yom ha'echad yesh lamed zchut ein machzilos. Whatever it is, so we have to Mitzvah Hashem. We have to understand this and how the Rambam, seems to say that it's only going on the musas. And I think the beginning of the answer is the Rambam doesn't quote the lav at all. We'll talk about this more, Mitzvah Hashem b'li neder. And maybe the lav is only remes. It means the Gemara never meant you violate the lav. It's only remes that ain't malam that on Bez is not malam mitzvos. Mitzvah Hashem next week, if it's all right with the Olam, I thought I'd go over the mitzvah of CPC's Mitzrayim, and the Mitzvah Hashem will pick this up afterwards. The continue with these mitzvahs. Hatzlocha.